Okay, welcome back. We've gone through the face builder and the face tracker node, and now that we have achieved that, what are we going to do with this information that we have now? I went ahead and offline went and tracked the tattoo plate as well, just so we have that done. It's the same exact process as we had before. You'll notice in here the plate actually, she opens her mouth for a minute, and you can see that the tracker is also working with any mouth movements. So that's good for us. Everything looks pretty clean. At this point, let's look at the geometry as well. So we'll see in the 3D viewer that we do have the full head geometry moving and animating. You'll notice that the geometry is moving back and forth in Z space a little bit. That's just since we didn't have a scene camera, that's its way of adjusting for certain movements and so forth. If that becomes problematic for you in the tracker node itself, there is the ability to lock the translation and rotation of the head and neck, eye blinking, neck movements, all of that stuff. But for this demo purpose, that wasn't really necessary. We just want to get accurate UVs exported. So this geometry is ready to go. There are a couple different ways of extracting this geometry and beginning the next step. One is to create a facial expression node and apply that to geometry. I like to actually just write out my geometry. That way it kind of bakes it in, and I'm just using a write node. So I just went ahead and wrote out a clean geo, and I'm just going to read that in and go to the folder. So in that same folder where I had the tracking, the pre-calc, I just created a geo folder. And so I have the clean geo here. We'll do the same for the read geo of this tattoo. And what we can do now is if we take our clean plate and we do a project 3D node, and I'm just going to connect that up to the same shot camera that we had before. I am going to apply that to the geometry and create a scanline renderer and connect that up to the same shot camera. And our result will be the geometry of her face projected onto her moving geometry, which is falling around very nicely. You can see the discrepancies on the edge. Again, I'm only caring about this area over here, so that's not the end. But we were speaking about UVs and how that can really help us. So instead of doing the render camera, I'm going to set that render node, scanline render, to UVs. And this gives us the UVs. I know it's a little freaky, but it is very powerful. And let me show you just an example here real quick. Let's say I wanted to do a paint cleanup, or for this instance, I'm just going to paint on the geometry of her. And let's just put a mark right across the top of her forehead. And I'm going to make sure that's on forever. And then all I'm going to do is going to take the geo again, apply that to here. Again, another scanline renderer. We're just taking out of UVs and putting it back into a render camera. And we'll just attach it to our shot camera. And when we look through here, you'll see there is a red line on our forehead. And now that red line should be tracking with her the entire way. So as you can see, very powerful in the fact that if we want to clean something up or add something to someone's face, it allows us to work on a nice flat surface and have that automatically track on. And basically you work on one frame, and theoretically you don't have to work on any other, which is a brilliant way of tracking. So that is that. If we want to, say, go the step further and we have our tattoo, let's look at that. Let's bring out our geometry for our tattoo. I'm going to do the same thing and create a project 3D node, attach to the cameras, tattoo plate, and a scanline renderer. So now I I have the UVs of her there. Okay, so now if we A-B these two UVs, positions should be pretty much the same. There's slight discrepancies, and that just might be alignment of geo, which again we can go back and address later. But let's see if we can get going here first. I'm just going to steal. I'm not going to get into the whole sleeve and roto and paint reveal on that, so I'm going to keep it simple here. I'm just going to roto out a little section here of this. And I'm actually going to do this as a freeze frame. The reason being, we could do this live, but I've already tested this and her head movements aren't exactly the same timing. So the lighting was getting a little different and some things are stretching. So I'm just going to use this as a clean plate straight on and be able to extract the information I need. And let's say I wanted to do a clean plate of the sword. Maybe I just keep scrubbing here until I feel like I have the least distorted sword. So like maybe something there, I would steal the sword from here over here and put it on the side of the face. But for this instance, I'm just going to do this part on the top of the forehead. So I'm going to take that. I'm just going to merge that over right here in between my geometries. So we can see our result is that. Obviously, skin tones and stuff are just a little off. So we can do our normal comp stuff, and I could just do a little bit of a key. So we have a basic key. It's not perfect by any means. Let's see what it looks like over here. Okay, and we'll just blur out our lines here. And she's got a tattoo on her face there. So let's see what the result looks like. We have a fully tracked tattoo on the top of her head. So this just shows you a quick example of what Keen Tools is able to do. In the next tutorial, I'm going to go over how we can transfer performances. So stay tuned.